Yes, Laura. You should post the link to the OP group. There we go, folks. There's Laura. She is in objective personality. Her best fit type is ISTJ. Yes. In Kersey, in socionics, LII. I mean, do you even go with that yourself, Laura, for LII?
I go with that myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And she has a friend who knows a lot about socionics, Alina Ames. And she does have her surname on YouTube, so I've not had a freak out because I've mentioned her surname. And she actually has a different name on. Anyway, shouldn't go into that. But she typed as LII as well. And I typed in. We have Julian here, ESFJ in OP. And I also believe ESFJ in these other systems as well. We have Binyamin here.
That I've ever really been like typed in. So that's the only type that I identify with.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we did that thing where we did the temperament in the interaction style. Yeah, and it was almost like the least worst best fit for you. And Binyamin here is a bit of a, I think you... I
put my type here on
an ISTP jumper, aren't you? You're one of those, I think the idea is an ISTP where you jump over the SE, and so it's TI, then NI.
Right, but I was typed as TISE.
Yeah.
Right, but you yourself believe you are
a... I don't know.
Yeah, that's where it's tricky, but I would think that... I mean, we can do events with Binyamin in the future to like work out because... And I think it can be tricky, though, because if you have someone who's ISTP and they've learnt the things that you've learnt, they look a lot like INTP. So, and as we know, functions develop. And so it would be interesting to have you EEG'd. And then we have Valowend here, Mitchell, who's ILI, harmonizing subtype in socionics. I believe he's very close to being an INTP.
Well, but maybe if he's harmonizing, maybe it makes him look more like INTP.
That's the thing. That's the tricky thing.
And like would you think like if I'm normalizing LII, would that look closer to ISTJ or whatever?
That's the thing. That's why I had a. Yeah, that's one of the interesting things with. Yes, we'll talk about objective personality in a moment, folks. But I'll just say a little thing about translating between systems. So, as Laura was saying there, there's a subtype system called DCNH, dominant, creative, normalizing, harmonizing. Harmonizing is a little bit more E9-ish, a bit more, as the name implies. Creative is I'm a creative subtype where it's you put more emphasis on independence. The INTP, independent thought. The creative subtype of INTP would appear a little bit more like ENTP or ENFP. There's extra NE. Now, the tricky thing is with somebody like Laura, because she's very much like Enneagram Type 6 self-pres, a lot of people would type Laura as ISFJ or ISTJ. But Victor has within his system called the normalizing subtype. And so that's the subtype that will appear a little bit more SJ. Oh, you want the link to post into the OP group? That's a little bit tricky, Laura, because I'd have to go out of the event.
Well,
I might be able to do it. I might be able to do it.
We can just post it.
Yeah, I think I've got it. Live view on YouTube. Then I'll send it to you. Right. Right. Watch. I think that'll work. Copy. I'll post it in the private chat. Close that one. Put that there. Right. That should work. Right. That's weird. Right. Anyhow,
right.
So we're gonna get on track now. So basically, with Laura's ISTJ and OP, Julia's ESFJ and OP, an ESFJ jumper, Binyamin ISTP jumper, Varlowind, what are you in?
NIFI, so an INTJ jumper.
Right.
And I'm not a jumper. I'm just FESI. I'm sleep last, but I'm FESI.
Oh, you see, that's what was throwing me off, Mitchell. When you said earlier on NIFI, I initially thought INFJ, and then I forgot that. Oh, he's jumping over with INTJ. Right? Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. And so we're going to start with Sana's question about do you want to go through this, Laura? Because
Just 1 second here.
okay.
I'm
She's
still.
posting to the OP, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing it on the unofficial group and then also on the class members
Right,
group.
okay.
I'll share it both places.
Right. What I'll do is I'll read it out. So Sana's question is, although I still don't quite understand self versus tribe, because you can be FI savior that has a value of their tribe over self, meaning how the hell do you figure out FI versus FE types? Yeah, what I don't understand is what is the fundamental principle that this is determined by, and it is also why I still don't know if I'm FI or FE in OP. And I'll give you a little preview of how things work out, folks. The stacking of the animals affects this, and so this is going to be quite a complicated answer.
I mean, not really. The stacking of the animals affects like which functions are activated and which functions you're using more. But
Right.
the animals don't necessarily affect your human needs. Like the human needs that are your saviors are your saviors no matter what. So like being FE versus FI is being tribe over self versus self over tribe. And it's
If it's your savior.
yeah, if it's your savior.
Yeah.
So so what's just the question? What is FE versus FI?
Well, she's coming from an assumption that she's a feeling savior. That's her assumption.
Okay, and she doesn't
And
know
so
whether
she doesn't know what she is. Yeah, if she's FE or FI.
Yeah, I'll give you some information about Sana. So frequently, so in MBTI, she is insistent, and I mean insistent, that she scores as INFP in MBTI. And I agree that she's IEI in socionics, so NIFE in socionics. And there are people in socionics that believe that she is ESI, which is like a hardcore version of ISFP, and is not really like ISFP. It doesn't translate over to any type in Kersey, Bones, Nardi, ESI. And so she's one of those three. And also I'll say something about Sana that, and she said this publicly, she's aware of the emotions around her, the emotional atmosphere, but she's not into harmony, and she's social last in her instinctual stacking in Enneagram.
I think a good place to start would just be with the OP theory, and then we also have Varlowend. I forgot your real name. I'm sorry.
Mitchell.
Who's FI? Mitchell. Sorry. So we have Mitchell who's using FI according to OP. So maybe we can ask him how that expresses itself, and then we also have Julia who's using FE as a savior. So that can maybe also help differentiate between the two.
Good idea.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I should pull up.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Oh, I'll probably scan that, yeah.
Is your FI masculine, Mitchell?
Yeah, I'm audio.
Okay.
So yeah, that means that. So yeah, I guess one area where they think I have FI savior is just that I'm often talking about like my personal preferences and what I like. Like when I sent them my video, that's one thing they'll do when they type people FI savior is the person will very often talk about like how they prioritize things. That's a big thing. Yeah. So the feeling function in OP has a lot to do with like how you prioritize things, they often say, whereas the thinking is about how the blocks fit together. So, I mean, like in socionics, I'm a logical type, but in their system, I'm not, because I talk a lot about how I prioritize things personally. Whereas with FE, they'll talk.
Yeah, you're more
about.
responsible at least to how
Yeah.
you prioritize things.
Yeah,
it's about
you're right.
responsibility. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm responsible for how I prioritize things. That's a good distinction. And for Effie, it's more like they're responsible for like how the tribe is prioritizing things. If that makes sense. I don't know if anyone has more to say about that.
Do you want to tell us a little bit how you prioritize things?
Just in general.
Yeah. Like who are you accountable to? What's more valuable? Like, are you just accountable to yourself on what's better?
Yeah, I just say I don't know if it's necessarily that simple, because like maybe if like I care about a certain system or something that maybe I like or something like that, then I might prioritize like the opinion of an expert in that in some ways.
But
That can, like, give people, like,
because you like it, because you've prioritized that expert.
yeah.
Right.
So it's like multi-level.
Right.
That sort of a way.
But so like in the end, you're still accountable to yourself.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, I do care very much about my own
Your own
priorities.
values. Yeah.
Even going against sometimes what lots of people think or tell me that I should do.
Mitchell, what are your criteria for prioritizing an expert?
Maybe also that I can see the value of their system in my own life. Yeah, that's kind of FI-ish in an OP sense.
And is there some TE in it as well? When you think of, so for example, when you say the value of it in your life, are any of those values TE related?
Like in an OP sense of TE, or
in our sense of TE, in terms of things that is something that can be applied to practical advantage, some utility.
Yeah, I would say if it consistently works for the purposes that it says that it has.
Right. Okay. So how do you use it? What do you get out of it specifically?
That it could help you understand people better, help you improve relationships, perhaps with people, because if you understand them better, you can understand better how to interact.
And that's important to you. All that is important to you.
Yeah, that is important to me.
Okay. Because a thing in Linda Barron's is that I don't know if this is so much a thing in OP, tandem use. So TE with FI, TI with FE. And frequently FI and TE goes together, because frequently TE is about measuring things, metrics. And FI is like, okay, what is the most important thing to measure? What is the most important metric here? I apologize if I've thrown everybody off course.
Yeah.
I'm
still.
Good one.
Sorry. So maybe we can get to Julia's understanding of Effie and how it's different from what Mitch said. It might be a good place to go.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to sort of conceptualize this is to look at it as tribe over self versus self over tribe. Like, look at the actual human needs. So for me, as someone who is tribe over self, my natural inclination is to focus on the needs of the whole, focus on the needs of everyone in the tribe. And especially because, so my identity is below the tribe. So my natural inclination is to look to the tribe for my own identity and my own opinions and my own needs, because I want that to jive with everyone in the tribe. So like, I'm constantly looking to the outside world and looking to other people to see how I should act and like how my identity should be. That's my natural inclination. So in terms of the feeling component, it's like, okay, I'm looking to the outside world. I'm looking to the tribe. I'm looking to what other people are doing. I want everyone to be on the same page. But it's more like, it's hard to describe how that relates to feeling, because it's just really wanting everyone to be on the same page in terms of like their emotional state.
Um,
Yeah, Ben?
that's very interesting there. When it's about the same page, whose page is it? Is it your page?
Well, so
Everybody's page.
well, I mean, like I think what's going on in my head is yes, I think it should be everyone's page, like it should be an objective view of what everyone, the vibes of everyone in the group. But really, it's from my own biased perspective, right? So it's like my own unconscious perspective is saying, okay, this is the vibe that I think everyone should be on, and there's like this program that's telling my head that that's objective. It's like everyone's page, but really it's my own unconscious perspective.
But you get that vibe. You get that vibe from polling people, from looking at other FI users or other FE users to see what their vibe is saying, And if someone's like, this one's not fitting in, he's not joining the vibe of the group, then he's the person that we have to help or kick out or whatever.
I have to make a decision about that. This person is not fitting the group. Do we, kick that person out and say that person is a bad person and they'll always be a bad person, or do I go and help them and try to bring them in with the group?
Julian, you said that frequently that people will think that you're more ENFJ than ESFJ. Could you give us some reasons why, or maybe tell us, do you think there's a difference in the FE of ENFJ and ESFJ?
We lost Laura.
A difference in the FE? No. Okay, so the way that I view this is there are a whole bunch of different programs going on in the brain, at the same time, and some of those are contradictory, some of those are, on the same page, and those combine to make the whole. So if you were to separate out the FE from an ESFJ and an ENFJ, certainly they would behave in different ways because the NI versus the SI influences it differently. But on the whole, I think that the human need of the FE, of being tribe over self, is the same in an ENFJ versus an ESFJ. It just sort of gets infiltrated in different ways in different functions. Mm-hmm. But the human need itself, I think, is probably most likely the same.
Yeah, now this is from a different system, but there might be some overlap. So Kersey sees ENFJ as quite different from ESFJ. It will see it as a leader, an in-charge type, with that NI, with that vision. So that's why, I mean, even OP types Oprah Winfrey is ENFJ. So their FE tends to be related to a movement with people and a grander vision. And there's an impression that you get that they're guiding the group. They're the mentor of the group, the leader of the group. Whereas with ESFJ, it really is about an attention towards the needs of the group. And their interaction style is collaborative.
And so it sounds like what you're talking about is traits of someone who would be in ENFJ versus an ESFJ. And that may be true. And I bet it would be at least somewhat consistent with objective personality. But the method of objective personality is really looking at the human needs and at whether someone is, whether they prioritize, I think it depends. The needs of versus prioritize the needs of the self.
It depends also what kind of leader the person is going to be. Like there's all different kinds of leaders, right? And OP talked about blast as pushing on the tribe, especially if you have a masculine FE or a masculine TE and your lead blast, then you're going to have no problem leading and pushing on the tribe.
Right. Yeah, I'll just say that when I describe, say, ENFJ like that, what I'm sort of doing is I'm showing how the preference is manifested in that, because Kersey temperament model is all about motivation. But so I'll talk about, I'll talk about a trait, but it's like he will talk about there was a predisposition there naturally within ENFJ to be a leader because they're directive and they are expressive. So that's the motivational part. And then we do, as you say, you then start to get into the traits. It's just like there's
And I think of traits as being a combination of things that we encounter in our lives, in our environment as we go through life, and the core motivation of the human needs that we're trying to fulfill. So we have our human need that we're trying to fulfill, and then we encounter all these things in life, and we'll eventually stumble upon things that either meet those human needs or things that, you know, trigger fears from our demons, and that is kind of what determines what traits or skills or beliefs that we develop through life. So someone may be a good leader if they're an ENFJ if they have that core stacking, you know, if they have the human need of self over tribe, and maybe if that's masculine, that helps. And if they encounter things in their life that encourage them to be a leader, then maybe they'd be more likely to be a leader if all those things add up.
Yeah, this a bit naughty of me to bring in Kersey, but I remembered you brought it up in the past, Julia, where you thought, Ben, you're being trait-based, and I almost thought, how dare you? I am motivation about motive. There's a concept that Kersey is about the temperament. I've not read much of those parts of the book, but I will say, so human needs, there's massive human needs for NFs. And so they would do it so Kersey would do it like this, and Linda Bones would do it like this. The way Effie is expressed is very much dependent upon the temperament. So NFs are diplomatic enablers. They are about helping people, especially in their personal development.
But again, sorry, just to stop you for a minute. What you're saying is what you're saying right now about NFs being diplomatic leader, that to me sounds like a trait. Is that considered a motivation or a trait? Because I'm a little bit confused. It sounds like motivation would be linked to the needs, but I'm not clear enough about what motivation really is in that model.
We're not hearing you, Ben. Or I'm not, at least.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't hear Ben.
You're muted. There we go. No?
Nope.
I hear whatever you're clicking on the keyboard. You're doing something to turn stuff on. Are you sure sound's coming out of your mouth?
Maybe you're just lip syncing. Nope, still can't hear you.
Fate Win says that Oprah's an ESFJ.
Who says Oprah's an ESFJ?
In the live comments, yeah.
And then and then Nia came in and said that ENFJ, Oprah's cringe.
The two people think that Oprah is not an ENFJ.
Yeah. Well, in objective personality, Dave and Shannon clearly type Oprah as ENFJ.
Yeah.
And like a really standard ENFJ as well.
Masculine.
Really standard,
Effie,
yeah.
no?
They kind of
what's her Effie? Masculine.
Use her as a benchmark.
No, masculine Essie, but feminine Effie.
Okay.
Got it.
And she's also consume last.
Right. Yeah, with her book club.
Yeah, with her
so she's peacocking consume. She's showing it off.
Right.
Which is common with like demon functions and demon animals. Look what I can do.
Especially demon consume. That one seems to be especially peacocky for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they think they're consuming. Because they are consuming. They're just doing it in a really weird way.
It's like they put so much conscious attention on it.
Yeah.
And it's like how much new are they really taking in?
But it is interesting. That's the one that people choose to peacock the most. I wonder if there's a reason for that. If that's like I don't know, like one of the most animalistic.
Well, I know that Dave and Shannon say, like with savior functions, that they're often unconscious, like we're doing them all the time, and we're not even aware that we're doing it. But whereas our demon functions, we may not be using them as much, but when we use them, we're more aware of it, and we can have kind of even though they're stressful for us, we kind of have a fascination with them, and we may want to be good at them. And this kind of gets into, function activation as well, because like due to some animal stackings, you can have a demon function be doubly activated. So there's even more of a desire to kind of use that demon function, even though we're not as naturally good at it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can hear you.
And what I'll do, I want to talk. I'm not going to talk about Kersey in this video. It's not because it would. We're about OP. I can be disciplined. Right, back on topic.
Good luck, Ben. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, this is not the time to do the theory of everything.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So did we answer that question? Are we done, or are we just any tangenting?
I'm scanning a page from the. It's an early page, Laura. So you might be happy with me showing it. It's the one where it talks about where you talk about FI and FE, and I wrote some notes.
You can feel free to share that link to the OP questions, you know, like in the YouTube comments or in your description, and then like.
Yeah, but
I'm okay with it being shared.
Yeah, you might be okay with it. You might be okay with it, but Laura, Julian might not be okay with it.
Okay, Julia, are you okay? Yeah.
Edit it.
You have
then
a
we can
question,
share-
Ben?
Yeah,
we
I don't
can.
know the way to edit it, then that would be fine.
yeah.
Just need small edits.
But yeah, I just wanted to show something because there's certain presuppositions within these models about. So, for instance, OP uses the 4-function stack that MBTI uses, and I'm just scanning this. So.
Hey, so before we move on to another question, just one thing about Effie versus FI.
Yeah.
I mean, Shannon and Dave have kind of put sort of, I guess, I don't know, negative connotations on all of the human needs, and it's easy to see kind of which one someone is doing if you look at sort of how it's negatively influencing their lives. So for someone who's tribe over self, they're going to be constantly like giving to other people and leaving nothing for themselves, and also looking to other people to tell them who they are. Whereas someone who is self over tribe is going to be good at figuring out who they are and what they want to be in life, but their negative aspects come when they're like the sort of selfish asshole who's like taking for themselves and not giving to anyone else. So on a very sort of basic, oversimplified level, that's kind of the difference between self and tribe.
That's on the negative side, but also on the other negative side is there's the pressure, where this pressure is being put. So like someone who's tribe above self is going to put pressure on others, where they're leaving a void in themselves. Like they should actually be changing.
Oh wow, Ben, you really marked that up.
Hey, that's the second version. The first version.
I never saw
the
this
heck
version.
out of the. That's the second. The first version was really marked up, and I went to town.
And then someone who's self above tribe is going to be pushing pressure on themselves to change, but they won't be accountable to make other people around them change.
Yeah, totally, and that's a really big thing, and probably one of the easier ways to determine whether someone is self over tribe or tribe over self. What are the negative aspects of it? Like, where's the void? Are they looking to other people? Are they like constantly putting pressure on others and not themselves, and looking to other people to tell them who they are, or vice versa? Yeah.
I would say that's a good comparison there. It's a little bit like that, the FE plus in Model G, but now's not the time for that. I'm just going to say there's certain
discipline. Ben,
yes,
good job.
Yes, also because I want to do this digression instead. So we're just going to say there's certain presuppositions. So the presupposition is INFP has these functions. What about the shadow functions? And it says here, note the absence of NI. And it says here, everyone has 2 savior functions. Who says? It's just
Dave and Shannon say that. Yeah, sorry, I should have made that more clear.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean literally, like there's a lot of things which are presuppositions. A lot of things in these models that people take for granted.
Yeah.
Just because it works out with the maths of it, and so here we go. So I think they've described saviors as the 2 strongest functions. So we've got
nothing to do with strength.
Okay.
It's about like your personal
accountability,
responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And respect.
What are you accountable to?
Okay. What you respect.
Okay. I stand. Go on, Julia.
There's a few different ways to look at it. I don't know what the best description that I can think of in my head. One is like the two tools that you think are going to save the world, like the two tools that you would take to a fight, because it's the two tools that you trust and that you respect. Those kind of, at least in my mind, seem to be the core aspects of what defines a savior. What you think will save the world, what you trust, and what you respect, and what you're consciously putting effort into. The
So,
things that you think are good inherently.
so in OP, that cough by Laura sounded a bit. Anyway, I won't say it. Anyway, so
Sorry.
so can an INTP have savior NI in OP?
No, because
Why
they're
not?
TINE.
Yeah, but why can't they be TINI?
They can be,
Because they would be.
but they're not an INTP.
Yeah.
But-
that's
But you
jumper.
see, but the thing is, though,
TINI would be a
right?
ISTP jumper.
But this is the thing is, I can. So if you think about INFP, this would be the model of how Van der Hoop would do. Now, this is the one he did for INT. I'll show you INTP. That's INTP.
Yeah, you
Now,
showed me
he-
this
he-
earlier today.
Yeah. Well, we're live now, so they can see it as well.
Right.
So here he's talking about INTP. Here we go. Let's see if we agree that he's talking about the same type that we think he is. Right. Let us take, for example, an introverted thinking type with intuition as a fairly well-developed secondary function and with strong polarity. So polarity is when the person is aware of pretty much all 8 functions.
Right. So what intuition is that he's talking about? Right. Extroverted
got
intuition
both.
or introverted? Yeah.
You've got both here because this is right. So this is this is Van der Hoop. This is 15. This came out about 15 years after Psychological Types. I like the way he conceives of this. So for the extrovert, they're more focused on the world rather than themselves in the world, their subjective reaction to the world. So their focus of consciousness. I like the way he's depicted it like that. In terms of the conscious orientation. And then this is how he defines the functions. So we've got here world as possibilities. So we can say, well, that
So
sounds
I just
like
want to
any.
say I like that you're not bringing Kersey and not bringing socionics, but now you're bringing in Van der Hoop. So good job.
Right, yeah, okay. But this relates to the second bit. It relates to certain presuppositions like,
Right.
oh, NI can't be a savior in INTP. But then I'll contradict myself as well because I'll actually say what Dario said and what the research is.
But
so I'm
then-
not here.
Hold on a sec. What would be the difference between saying someone is, an INTP versus an ISTP? Why can't they just be an ISTP? Like someone who's TINI is totally possible in objective personality. Why does it matter that you call them an INTP?
Well,
How
because, but doesn't. So okay, are you saying that an ISTP jumper is just if they wrote profile? Would the profile of an ISTP jumper that I don't even know that they've written, would that sound like an INTP just with a load of NI?
No, it'd sound like someone who is TINI.
Mhm.
Because that's their savior functions.
Yep.
So why call them an ISTP then if they're nothing like ISTP?
They don't call them ISTP. That's just something that Myers-Briggs people use. They want to get rid of all of this stuff. The P's and the J's and the I's and the E's, all this stuff they got to get rid of.
Yes, because it confuses people.
Yeah.
So
But you know what? They still kind of throw the Myers-Briggs terms though, like on some of their YouTube videos, like they'll have something like challenges of ESFJ or whatever. They
Yeah.
still do throw it in.
They still use
throw
them
it
because
in.
it's pop culture. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is
But
that a bit? So getting back to Effie, is this a bit how you experience FE, Julia? The world as
The
obligation.
world as obligation? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the day, on the time, how I'm feeling. I don't know.
Right. And then we've got here the objectified world stands for the will to control by systematization. It's for TI there.
We should change the name of this
Like-
video to this.
Yes. Well, this is, but I will get back on track. But anyway, the point is, they were talking about saviors.
I mean, this would be another hangout in itself.
Right. So I'm wondering
Yeah.
what the type this would be in OP. So he was talking about N, and he was like this type. So conscious orientation is in such a case directed chiefly on the subject's own systematic thought activity. And this is more in regard to the aspect of form than of matter. Logical forms are experienced as something vital, originating in the self, and the intuition makes it possible to arrive at a new vision of spiritual relationships. So that's the NI part. That's the experience of NI in INTP. And it's the second largest area in this graphic. This is TI, this is NI, this is NE, and this is TE here.
And in objective personality, you wouldn't necessarily type someone based on what functions are well developed. You would type them based on like what their human needs are, what they fear, what they what they run to when they're in a fearful situation. You wouldn't type them based on what functions are well developed.
And anyone can do or say anything or use anything.
Yeah.
It's just when they're doing and saying it, are they doing it in like a point of defending themselves and stressful, or are they doing it in a point where they're comfortable? That's also something you're looking at. So, and then also the language they use, what's the meaning behind the language? Because like someone who's an NE dom and talks about thinking, they're going to talk about NE. And someone who's an SI dom and they're talking about thinking and truth, they're going to be talking about SI.
So let's get back to this. Let's clarify this thing with jumpers then, because so you've got the MBTI terminology. You would say, so Binyamin, are you really an INTP then? Are you just TINI rather than TINE?
I am TISE. According to OP, I don't personally know. I typed myself originally as a TINI. Like that was my original guess. Yeah. So I don't know. I see my NI all the time. I see it as strong. I see it as the goal for SE. But I don't know if I'm, at the end of the day, what I'm more responsible to. I think I'm just balanced on the two, which is what it should be anyway. The second and third function should be balanced anyways.
But you see the thing is, that's why I would like to see a whole type profile, so I could compare an ISTP profile in OP to a ISTP jumper profile, because then I could look at it and go, oh, is this describing LII?
If you're going to OP for like a full complete profile, then you're in the wrong place. OP is not going to tell you about a whole profile. They're going to tell you what each part means, and then when you assemble all the parts together, that's when you get the profile.
And there's 512 possibilities in OP. It would be a really daunting task to write a full profile for each one.
Well, they're going to get the finger
out.
And
some of these 512 types, they don't have any known examples. Examples of somebody fitting into the type, and in some of the types they only have a few people. They just don't have enough sample size yet, I don't think, to be able to even construct such a profile.
And now, the other thing is they've got the healthy version, the unhealthy version, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I would like it to be attempted anyway. So that's interesting.
Well, maybe way down the road when they get more people and they have a larger sample size, and maybe they could start doing that.
Also the thing is, if they wanted to do a complete profile, they could just do the profile of each part, and then you type in what type you are, and then all the parts would come together and just give you the profile. Yeah, it's the same thing.
But you see, that's a problem from
by having all of the animal stacking and the savior functions. Like that's almost the profile right there. It says all of your the profile.
So I would argue yes and no, because like for example, like somebody's lead blast, for example, but blast just means that you have an extroverted decider function, TE or FE, paired with an organizing function, SI or NI. But ST blast, like SITE, is going to look very different than like NF blast, NIFE. So there's still going to be some differences there.
And then there's the IJ blast, the EJ blast, or the masculine, feminine, masculine blast. all kinds of variations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned here about people typing us upside down. I think I
Yeah.
know one case of that happening of people I know, and that's Shalina, who typed herself as ENFJ and then came out as ISTP. But we actually got there, Jeff and I, through.
Oh, you're not working again, Ben.
You've
Muted again.
gone muted again.
It looks like you're really happy though, and you're really talking with emotion. Yeah.
What is
No,
happening?
not hearing you again, buddy.
You might need to log out and log in again.
You finally got to talk. You finally got the floor. Poor guy. Dead air. Dead air. Dead air.
There without them. Kind of wonder if like all the people in the same OP type would have the same best fit type like in other systems or not necessarily.
That's a
I
good
don't
question.
think they would.
Yeah, not
I
necessarily.
would argue not necessarily.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot
I
of people
think that
where
way
some
too.
of the functions are the most obvious part and some of the functions are not the most obvious part. So it seems like it just totally depends on the person.
Mhm.
I also I wonder why that is. Like, why are some parts more obvious than others in the same type?
Right. So,
Yeah.
No idea.
I think it has to do with level of function activation. Like if a function happens to be double activated due to the way their animals stack up, that
Right.
a function's going to appear more obvious.
Yeah.
And I think
Well,
if the function is masculine too, there's more shoviness on that function, so that's going to make it stand out more.
Except for masculine NE. That's
Even
weird.
people-
Yeah, I don't quite.
That's a funny idea, yeah.
Like
Ah,
my exact type, like double feminine, Effie, SI, sleep last. Like some of them, their SI is way more prominent than mine,
Mhm.
and it's like it's so obvious that they're SI, whereas with me, it's less obvious, and I don't
Yeah.
know why.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, because that is true. I mean, what I will give props to OP for is it does account for Julia being ESFJ without really being Guardian. Because you don't have a 6 in your tri-type when we did the Enneagram. And usually Guardian will have a 6 in their tri-type. So that's unusual. Because remember, we did a hangout with Jonathan about 6s. Anyhow, so, Binyamin, please tell us about masculine NE. Because I'm wondering if it might sound a bit like Jack Aaron.
So I'm just
Yeah.
saying from what I've seen, okay, like I don't actually know what masculine NE is. I've interviewed a couple people with masculine NE, and it comes off very NI-ish. It comes off very focused and not as scatterbrained like Ben's feminine NE.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wait, did Ben get typed in NOP?
He got typed by everybody, I think.
Yeah, and what they did is
everybody.
we're all
they did it
I know
based
Jack-
on that video where I behaved myself, and then I think Laura posted a contrast video, which was the one where he did it on your channel, and I was all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jacques type NOP is NETI audio, so he would have feminine NE.
Yeah.
The
Masculine NE is really rare. It's really rare.
Blast. Yeah.
Is it really rare? I feel like I know several people with masculine NE, just like in my personal life.
Maybe.
I know one.
But
Infinity.
I see masculine NE. I mean, it is really interesting because with NE, the possibilities are all over the place, and it's very open-ended. But with masculine NE, they can occasionally be very aggressive about this specific NE concept.
Mhm.
But it's like they'll be very aggressively going towards this one concept, and then they'll jump to another concept, and then they'll jump to another concept. So it's open-ended like NE, but it's also focused like in that one moment.
So just from interviewing them, I don't know. I'm not accountable. I don't know if they're actually masculine NE or NI or whatever, but just from interviewing them, I asked them a question and they answered the question. Whereas a feminine NE, I asked them a question and I don't know where we end up. We end up in some book that we're not even talking about.
Okay, I made this is a document that I kind of compiled. It was kind of for my own, kind of more for my own use. This is just stuff that I kind of gathered from the various OP classes about masculine NE, and I'm finally pulling it up here.
Wow, very well organized.
But I
Laura.
think what Dave and Shannon have mentioned a couple things. Like one example was the masculine NE is saying the world is going to change, therefore we need to go to Mars. And then the feminine NE says, yeah, but what about this, and this? Because they're not so solid on any one possibility. And then the masculine NE is saying, no, we're going to Mars. So that's...
And that
Right.
can sound like NI, right? One future concept that they're narrowed in on. It can seem like NI some of the time. But in my experience in talking to people who have masculine NE, like they can give an answer and focus on one thing for a short period of time. But if you have a 3-hour conversation with someone who has masculine NE, to me it seems like the same thing as feminine NE, where it's like you don't know where you're going to end up at the end of that 3 hours, because they'll just like an NE go down each of the NE concept roads, but like they'll still jump topic to topic.
And I think they also say, like, if it's masculine NE in a savior state, Dave and Shannon have said in the classes, like they tend to be like the disruptors, kind of like we could or should do this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're still preferring to gather rather than organize, but it's kind of more still more definitive, like
shovey.
Well, I mean,
shovey, like
and aggressive.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Just a tip for people out there: don't use the word "should" with people, because
I agree
that you're going to get accounts, especially with artisans. Why should we?
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, the should, but it's also something in my personal life. I don't know why. What's going on with that?
Well,
wait, sorry. What's the should thing? Or is the should thing?
Never say never say
should.
Never say should to people.
Yeah, but how did that come up?
Laura was saying should.
Laura said should, and it reminded me
about masculine, feminine functions in NE, and like I was giving an example with masculine NE. Oh, we could or we should. It was more like we should do this. It's, but I think a masculine function, there's going to be more of a sense of should, to it, because it's more chubby. They're
it's going to be more like direct. More
explicitly, maybe.
Chubby, exactly what you said, chubby.
I mean, Jeff is an easygoing guy, and he says like one of the quickest ways to turn him off in an interaction is just to say he should do this or should do that, because you're just limiting.
Be told what to do, no matter what.
He's an EP, yeah.
No one wants to be
He's an
told
EP,
what to do. I'm one of the most like feminine, movable types ever, and like I still don't want to be told what to do. Everyone.
So I wonder what the difference between we could go to Mars or we should go to Mars.
Well, could is
there's
just
a
like
massive difference.
I'm just throwing one of many possibilities out there.
Yeah.
I'm not taking it overly seriously. Whereas we should go to Mars. That's kind of more shovey,
Yeah, that's chubby. Yeah.
Or
we could go to Mars is less chubby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing in there's a whole thing in NLP. This is called the meta model, where little things in the whole point of the meta model is not to trip people up. Is to see how their thinking is limited, to see if someone's got all these shoulda, woulda, couldas in their mind that's limiting their thinking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have their own personal shoulds.
It also strays from acceptance. Like if you say it should be like this, but it's not, well, then you're not going to accept it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just done a scan on with the OP definitions, and if this goes wrong again, I won't cry. I'll just log out and log back in again. Right.
Good flowing with the chaos there, Ben.
But you know, some of these definitions stimulated me to have a counter example. So this one here, organizing known concepts for NI.
Did you correct extrovert with an A, but not the introvert? Sorry.
Yeah, because introverts spelled with an O. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Anyway, so what I'm saying is, because in the previous page you talked about the human needs correspond directly to the Jungian functions, and I'm just going to let people know just how much Carl Jung mentioned time in NI. I'll just put that over there. So I have a quote.
The one you
So
showed me
Van,
today too, right?
where it says extrovert, you started to black it out, and then you wrote above it.
Yeah, because it was spelt with an O, and
Yeah.
he likes extrovert with an A.
Oh,
Yeah, I like extrovert with an
Demon
A.
Okay.
SI. This is Demon
Yeah,
SI.
yes. So
Sounds like
masculine sense.
yeah, MBTI
Demon
frequently.
masculine sensory.
I've got the book Building Blocks of Personality Type, and they don't define NI right. So NI is about time. So for example, the archetype would be, to borrow from Kant, the noumenon of the image which intuition perceives and in perceiving creates. And this is about NI. Its prophetic foresight is explained by its relation to the archetypes, which represents the laws governing the course of all experienceable things. And NI, and Socionics calls NI the intuition of time. So this then plays out in the corresponding Kersey role variants with the NI types, because those types have intuition of time. So for instance, when you have NI and TE, it's about sequencing of actions towards long-term objectives. You have an intuition of time.
And he agrees with this, 100%.
Right. Okay. And then you got here, guiding others to achieve their future potential. NI with FE. And so that shows the time element of the time aspect to NI, intuition of time. And
it comes from the fact that their SE is inferior, and they're not focused on the moment. They're focused on things outside of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got here, and then we've got about organizing concepts. Now, I would say that's TI, and I want to give an example of somebody organizing concepts, and that is David Mark Kersey. I think, did you say that you would type him as INTJ and OP?
I said he's probably using NI more than any Kersey.
Right.
No.
Whereas I think I showed Mitchell some of David Mark Kersey's stuff, and he might have thought, "Whoa, that's at TI." I can't remember. That might have been his father.
Unless what he's doing is organizing the details, and he's just taking all of these concepts and bringing them into the details, which is kind of what he's done in this spreadsheet. So I don't know what he's actually organizing here. Is he organizing concepts, or is he organizing details?
Well, I think he's organizing. I mean, you know more about it than me, but I think he's organizing these subatomic particles and other aspects of physics around concepts of information units.
So the question is, what is the public domain? Is the public domain the concepts, and then his own personal organization here is the details, or is the public domain all of the facts, and then his own revelation is these concepts that he's bringing out?
And then, so that's why it says, when it says organizes concepts, I would think that's TI.
I mean, if you take it at face value, then it might sound contradictory. But the way that Shan and Dave have described NI is like narrowing down the concept so that you can build concepts on each other. So you have concept on top of concept on top of concept, on and on and on and on and on, which in turn creates a very sort of path into the future. So NI, even in objective personality, is absolutely connected to time, but it's connected to time based on building these organized concepts on top of one another. And then that's how you get sort of the time component of NI. So I don't see it as contradictory necessarily.
It's also looking for commonalities more than connections. It's looking, how is this the same than that? Whereas NE is looking more for connections rather than commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking that
An NI Dom, Mitchell.
I think Shannon recently had an interview, and I remember that she said that the NI DOMs, like Dave, she gave us an example where, and I guess myself too, are always sort of in the future. So it leads them to be like impatient with things.
Yeah, I think that was
So
on my
there's-
channel, man.
Yeah, was on your channel.
Okay.
So, and then this thing here, I mean, again, temperament. When you got here for FI, personal identity values, but I said there, can Dave and Shannon explain why identity is more important to NFs than it is to SFs?
So
Why is it-
I think I know one of the problems you're having with this, Ben.
saying
You're
that
having,
at all.
yeah,
I mean,
you're having a big problem because they're both NI users and they're going to come to you with like organized concepts. And you're like, what are the definitions? Like they're
Yeah.
coming out, they're like, these are the concepts, take the concepts. And you're like, yeah, but I need definitions. And so you're going to have to
This
do that
sounds like
translation
a
to sort of get
difference-
them.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
sounds like a difference between NE and NI and SE
Yeah.
and SF.
Yeah,
Totally.
but it's not, to me, it's because
So right
from a
here
co-
are not definitions. These aren't their definitions. These are just like borders for their concepts, which I guess is a definition in a way, but it's more
Yeah,
like
but-
that.
but
You
what I'm-
can't take this as sensory fact.
Right, but right. But what, you see, what I'm doing is
Yeah.
because there's an aspect of it's not just elements; it's the whole pattern. It's the emergent property.
Well,
It's-
it's all of their definitions are going to point at the concept. So they're going to come up with another definition. It's going to point to the concept. And so really what you have to go is you have to look at all of their definitions all at once and see everywhere they're pointing. And then in the end, you get to the concept they're trying to build. Whereas that's not the way you would try to construct something.
Well,
Yeah.
you could do that in a graphic. Then you like making graphics where, like, so for
I did.
each of their functions, you can like do a cloud, a word cloud, a concept cloud for them
Right.
talking about.
All of their sensory words, and then all the sensory words fit into the concept somehow, right?
Because
So
I mean,
these are
you-
some sensory words that are applicable, but it's just not the actual definition. It's just some things that are pointing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask you, Julia. So, do they have a concept of NFs? Do they have that as a group in OP?
So they've described all of the letters as kind of having some similarities. So like NF, ST, SF, and NT. So they've described all of those. Yes.
It's just that in Kersey, identity is very important to all of the NFs, even the NFJs that don't value FI.
Identity is important to everyone,
So
man.
let me say
Yeah.
the way that they described all of those letter pairings is primarily based
well,
on
if you're going from the human needs perspective, yeah, because that's one of the four human needs, and in objective personality, it's going to be the core need for IXXP types.
but
What
for-
is what's the
But everybody's
original word for identity? It's not identity. It's something else.
Significance?
significant.
Significance. There you
Significance?
go.
I think
Yeah.
it's
So it's
significance.
not actually identity. Yeah, it's significance more.
Okay, a
And
different
for
way.
the letter
yeah.
pairings, they've described how the language of those letter pairings can be similar, and they have like their little
Okay.
like nicknames for them and things, but they haven't described like the whole profile based off like the NFs do this and the NFs value this. It's more like the NFs use this type of language, the STs use this type of language. That's how they've described the letter pairings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, anyway, I'm going to stop myself.
But anyone can use any, like, this is the same thing. Anyone can use any
Yeah.
of the languages. It's just what state are you in when
Yeah.
you're using the language, right? So
Yeah,
if you're in what they call a savior state and you're using NF language, then they'll say you're an NF savior.
Okay, I'll put it differently. I'll use a socionics concept called blocking. So, socionics might say that FI with with NE is different from FI with SE. So, whereas this,
Laura,
This
do you
is-
have the check the checklist, because in the checklist they actually have like a really good definition.
I was looking for
yeah,
that.
I can share that.
They have,
or, give
they
you
have a
the-
definition of what you do first and then what do you do after.
yeah,
And that might be better for you, Ben, to get this.
yeah.
Mitchell, you might be the right person to comment on this because you know sort of where I'm coming from and you know where OP is coming from. I mean, do you think, and you know systems theory, do you think it's as localized as this? Or blocking matters, like, or where something could be an emergent property of a combination of things rather than just saying personal identity values is FI and it doesn't matter what the surrounding functions
Yeah, I
are.
think they allow all the blockings in OP because I guess that's sort of like each of the different animals, basically. Those are like the blockings, more or less. So like you're playing when you're using extroverted decider and an extroverted observer, and you're blasting when you're using an extrovert decider with an introverted observer. And they have some nice definitions of those animals that are pretty brief. So like play is expending energy, work, doing, show off. Blasting is teaching, controlling, getting started, bragging. And each of those, I guess, would involve two of the
Are
functions.
these traits? I thought traits were bad.
No, okay. So this is one thing that I wanted to specify.
Ben, I got the notes. I got the notes up. Do you want me to share my screen?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So this is one of the things that OP does is they're trying to catch you with a net. They're trying to type you. They don't care about defining the functions. They don't care about defining the animals. They're trying to catch you, and they're using nets to catch you in a way. So like they're all of their typings is less on what the functions actually are in their essence, and it's more how do you catch the functions. And then from there, once you've typed people, then you can start talking to them and seeing what they say and how they're using their functions. But first you have to type them and catch them.
At least certain trends or patterns in
Okay.
how they do.
So that's where you were talking about, are these traits? So that's how you catch people, with traits. It's one of the ways you can catch people. Yeah.
And also what he was describing before isn't necessarily traits, it's a description of the animals. So like play is expending of energy. That's a description of what that animal is.
Okay,
Everyone has play somewhere. You know, it's not a trait of a specific kind. It's just like, where are you expending energy?
Can you see my screen?
That's a good point.
No,
we can't
now.
now.
Yeah, one moment, Lawrence. On the second row down. Now, there you go.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Okay, I got the section about animals pulled up.
Can you zoom in a little bit, or can't we can't do that?
Yeah.
Oh, I can make it a little bit bigger by doing it like that.
All right. No, so we were talking about NF first. Animals are good too.
Okay. I can go up to NF. I'll go up to NF. Okay, here it is. I don't know if I like these terms though. Like NF is hippie.
Right. Yeah.
Anti-purity, but that's what Dave and Shannon use. So
right.
This is always the part of
kind of pretty anecdotal, but
yeah. I think part of the checklist that's mostly called into question. You know, these are not concrete terms in any way. They do seem more like anecdotes.
It's a big disrespect for the SI, basically. Those terms. Big disrespect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Which is a theme, but like you said, it's.
I mean, the ST one isn't as bad, but I've also heard them say, STs are robots.
So, and there's an FESI who actually re-termed the titles here as a little bit better. Amanda. I don't know if you guys know what she termed them, what she coined them, but she actually did a really good job coining them differently.
I don't remember it, but
yeah, SF was culture. She said.
Which Amanda? Without mentioning her surname, which Amanda is this?
I'm not sure if you know her.
Yeah.
I've not done a video with her. It's not the
No,
other
you haven't,
Amanda.
no.
Oh, okay, different Amanda then. Okay.
Not that I know of, at least. Sorry.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't know if I want to say her full name. I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good one, Laura.
Yeah.
But so yeah, this is what you were asking about, Ben.
Right.
If they
Okay.
define NF.
Right. I think I've said all of the bits. Apart from, we could say a little bit about, because a lot of the audience don't know, is Julia, could you tell us about what a double-blind study is, and then what a blind partner study is for the audience?
Okay, so there's kind of been a little bit of a misconception about what double blind is versus like blind typing. Double blind. So when you think of like a double blind study, so the gold standard for a clinical trial is a randomized double blind placebo-controlled trial. And double blind in that context means there's some sort of intervention taking place, and both the patient and the experimenter are blind to what intervention that patient is on. And so they do that so that the experimenter doesn't influence the patient in any way, so that they don't behave in a certain way. So it's like patient experimenter. They're both blind. In this context, that doesn't necessarily apply. So this isn't a double blind study. It can't be a double blind study. It's not applicable in this context. What the blind typing means in this context is really just Shan and Dave are blind to each other's opinions. So they're trying to type someone, and they don't know what the other person has typed them as. And having two people who are blind to each other's opinions coming to the table with their own typings, if their typings are the same or similar, then that sort of increases the likelihood that this person is actually that type. So it's just blind. They're blind to each other. That's all that they mean when they say they're doing blind typing.
So this is something that Kimberly said. All it proves is that they share the same delusion. That that they actually have the same delusion, or like I won't use the word delusion anymore because it's kind of rude. But like they have the same system and they share the same system and they can type people the same. So it doesn't mean they're right. It just means they both understand the system.
Yeah, and they're married, isn't they? So
they sort of. Probably
but they
common
both
law or something.
have their own subjective opinions.
Yeah.
And their own subjective opinions happen to correspond.
I think of it as like intersubjective.
Yeah, they get to the type also.
They can match and still. I mean, their opinions can match, and it can still both be wrong. I mean.
Yeah.
But the fact that they match is better than them not matching.
Yeah, the accountability is still a good.
Yeah.
They're accountable to each other.
Yeah.
Is by trying to figure out what parts they need to be able to track in order for two people to come to the same conclusion. Because they found that when they were looking at the types in sort of the traditional Myers-Briggs method, they could not arrive at the same type doing this blind typing. So they had to that's how they discovered all of their coins. Once they discovered all of their coins, they realized that that's what enabled them to actually come to the same conclusion.
So just to give like a little example, so let's say you have someone who's a master of model A and a master of model G, two different people, and then they start typing somebody, and they come to different types, and they're like, okay, well, we got to create a new system so that we type people the same, and so then you get model Z, and then that's how model Z is born, because they're both accountable to each other and to finding the same type.
Mitchell might disagree with me, but I think most of the time you'd come out pretty. I mean, because there's different schools associated with each of those models, but that's a different subject. What I can do, I thought I'd finish with this, but what I can ask is about some of the things on here. So this about SE. So because again, so we can discuss these human needs. So when it says here, SE gathers new facts, things. To what end? Why?
Well, it depends on if it's for FI or.
I'm thinking that they just want variety. because it's gathering. They want the new.
Yeah.
Ben wants this to be a
And
definition
it's
really
not,
badly.
they're not
I do,
motivated to organize it.
How they're approaching.
They just want the new shiny car or
Mhm.
just
Essence
Or just
new
a good
facts,
as
their favorite
human
topic.
need-
Yeah.
the human need of either gathering or variety or novelty or some sort of like newness. So the human need of, I say novelty, the human need of novelty that's connected to the physical world. That's what I think of it as,
Right.
which is gathering new facts and things.
So like an SE user might want to get more data to improve the model, and an SI user would want to keep working the same data to figure out their model.
Mm-hmm. Like respecting all that data, the facts.
Right.
So another Dario's point of view would be that it's about gathering data that's relevant to the present context to solve the problem at hand.
Sure.
And that they're not interested in facts which are, say, historical facts, don't have any relevance.
But that, I mean, you can also think of that as SI too, right? SI wants to, they are kind of gathering facts, but it's gathering the facts that are like really, really relevant and narrowed down.
Just
So,
look at what Laura's been doing. Like, look at all this. Like, she's got everything completely organized. We're talking about a subject. She can pull it up. It's all of the data is organized based on relevance, based on where it is, what it's doing. Like, it's organizing the data. And I would never think to do that. Like, I would never do that. I would just be like, oh, I'll find it. I'll get it new.
Well,
I'll search for it.
I bring up stuff as well. So how did I compare to Laura?
You're using a good SI, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's tickled.
Everyone does that.
It's tickled Julia. But yeah, I mean, INTPs can get organized. I mean, look at that thing there. I mean, like, let's put everything together in a graphic to try and communicate our ideas.
But it's just like the colors are weird, and not everything's all in the same row, and yeah.
But there were some other things in the other Q&A questions. We have 6 viewers, and you're welcome to ask a Q&A question in the side, especially if you super chat me.
If you're still awake.
Right. What have we got here? Yeah, I mean, we got stuff about the diagnostics, research, gathering new facts, gathering old facts. Okay, here's one. Yes. So this one's interesting to me. So, TE tribe validation reasons. How is that explained in INTJ and ENTJ? You, Mitchell, you type as INTJ, or rather, you type as the other one. But what do you think of that when you hear TE described as tribe validation reasons?
Well, one thing I will say is that is a demon function for me, so it's actually not as much respected as the personal identity reasons. But I kind of do get the TE approach in some senses. Like the reasons that like people are using or can just generally sort of understand, whereas with TI, it's like the reasons are internally consistent to you, but they won't necessarily be making sense to other people or be the reasons that they're using to understand something. So like if you have someone who has strong TE, then, or like they really respect TE well and do it well, then they like to like bang out their ideas with others. Whereas the TI people, saviors who have TI savior, don't necessarily need to do that as much. Like they're satisfied in a way if it makes sense to their internal.
So Ben, before you present an argument to the tribe, before you come out with an argument, you're arguing with yourself for a long time. You're internally arguing, and then you'll come out and present the argument. TE people won't do that internal side. They'll just come out with the
Like this-
argument externally first.
I'll just say it's
Yeah.
a polite discussion with myself. I don't
Right.
not raising voices in my head.
Yeah, but you're coming to some kind of resolution internally before you allow it to come to the tribe.
Yes,
Whereas
and look,
like
I
if
really
you-
want
yeah.
to tell people it.
It's a more.
That's right.
But I got to say something here. Because
Laura's
you
got
know,
a TE savior. There you go.
Because I'm TE in OP, but then I'm TI like in socionics. I mean, I kind of do both because I do a lot of internal processing, kind of argue in my own mind both sides before I bring it forward. But then sometimes I'll also just be discussing with people and kind of finding things out as I go along. So it's kind of both. And it kind of relates to the animals too. Like, you know, there's sleep processing, like the sleep animal, and then there's the play animal. And the play animal is kind of more learning something with other people. And then the sleep is just kind of internalizing and processing it and then coming out and sharing it.
I think, Laura, we can dig down on this because you are an interesting case. But if you give lots of examples of, say, your TE in OP and then TI in, because it's like a good case example, case study. So what's example of your TE usage in OP?
Well, I think just having things make logical sense for everybody. Kind of like, you know, I'm compiling this document and I want to make sure that it makes sense for people that are going to read it, you know, and make things work for people or just in my job, you know, this process has to work for people. It isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
whereas when Ben gives you a piece of paper with all of these little notes everywhere, it doesn't make sense to anyone but him.
The ISTPs appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I'm just joking. Yeah.
But
Yeah, like if you had another like TI person or just anyone who's trying really hard to understand like what you're saying, then it might make a lot of sense to them too. So like if you can understand another person's TI, it just might not be as immediate.
so
Yeah.
Laura,
And yeah, does
So
it
it's kind of like
all on sense? All of his writings and things? You're the only TI person in the group.
well,
Well,
because
okay.
of what system you're
The other
using.
thing is I think there's a lot of processing.
I mean, I can make
done
sense. I can make
behind.
sense of most of it.
Yeah, me too.
It's
A
not
couple
just
things
like
I kind
his
of have
first
to do a
thought.
little translation, but I think most of it makes sense.
Thank you.
But some of it is kind of based on the assumption that you know these other theories. And if you don't know these other theories, it may not make sense to
that's the problem.
a regular lay person reading it.
The gather.
Like, for example, he says, kind of in the middle there, this can be justified if the TENX resembler.
Right,
I
yeah.
know
He's
that
not
he's
spelling everything
referring
out.
to
Yeah.
Galenko's Model G, but
Yeah, like like for example,
so
if we-
I know what he's getting at. But if
Yeah.
I had no knowledge of Model G, I'd be going like, "What's this gobbledygook?" You know?
but also
Word
it's like if you look at the Kersey profile of ENTJ, it's very Enneagram 3-ish. It's like it wants success. So there you can say, oh, that fits well with tribe validation reasons and also with social instinct. But also you can get ENTJs that don't really give a tosh about society and more adaptive, more
Right.
utilitarian and a very different mental approach from ESTJ. And again, that's the influence of temperament, where NT is a utilitarian and it's more about themselves and they take pride in autonomous thinking. So that's why I was wondering how that definition of TE fits with them.
Right. And I know, Ben, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, but I know that, you know, we've kind of talked about that too, about like for myself, because I do, like, I'm self-present in the Enneagram, but I do have a strong secondary social instinct that's almost as high. And I do have that strong need to kind of be affiliative kind of with other people and kind of, you know, wanting to fit in and kind of all that stuff. And in OP, that is kind of a strong need for the tribe validation, which you know, if you think I'm an INTP, in the Kersey model, that there's kind of a contradiction there.
But
because
remember,
an INTP would be more pragmatic than affiliative, and
but remember the insight that I eventually got to is, but what are you like when you're on your own?
Right.
And then you do things,
Yeah.
you don't do things
when I'm
by
on
the
my
book.
own.
You
The
think
other
to
thing is, who
yourself.
are you accountable to, Ben? So if you're accountable to the tribe, then your logic has to make sense to other people for it to be true. Whereas if your logic is if you're accountable to yourself, then your logic just has to make sense to you. You don't care what other people agree with it or not. It's still true for you.
But you see, the thing is, a Kersey ISTJ, when they're on their own, nobody's watching. They're still going to do things by the book because they're still
Right.
going to go to the authority.
But in the end, they're accountable that other people agree with them.
Right.
That's what they're accountable to.
Okay,
But
well,
it makes sense to everyone.
But so you, Laura,
Okay,
we had the others not been around when we had this discussion. When you are on your own and other people are not watching you, and do you do things more how you want to do it and less by the book when it's just when you're on your own?
Well, if it's only for myself,
Yes.
if it only affects me, then I'm gonna do it my own. I'm gonna do it my own way. But if it's going to affect somebody else, then I'm going to be looking at the other people.
Right.
And but sometimes I will still, even if I'm doing something for myself, I may still look at authorities because I want it to work. Like if I'm cooking something that I'm not familiar with and I've never cooked it before, I'm going to follow the recipe, at least for the first time around, because I don't want to mess it up. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I'm kind of looking to the authority in that sense. But once I've gotten familiar with the recipe for a while, I can kind of know how I personally like it. And if I'm just cooking it for myself, then I may not quite follow that recipe. I may have my own way of doing something.
Right, so someone's Fate has just made a $5 question here. So this is the super chat feature.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to digress too much here. Yeah.
So Laura, could you give an example of something where you do it you're on your own in your own way that would be indicative, you think, of LII in socionics rather than say another type? Because most people
do we want to?
Yeah, well, the question I would say TE likes to gather arguments and gather ideas, less than data.
I'll just say how I think. I should have answered the question. Sorry, Fate. I'll give you an idea of how I think Carl Jung saw the difference between SE and TE in this regard. So he did write about the SE Dom being very much interested in facts. The question then goes, I think with TE, it's the thinking as I think he described it as a sequela of the fact. So with SE, it's like it stops at the facts, and then it's used as the sort of basis for reasoning with TE, but it never strays too far away from the facts and always references and returns back to the facts. Whereas with TI, the facts would just be the starting point, and then it would sort of go off in its own direction and would be very much colored by the subjective factor. So you could have 10 different TI DOMs look at the same fact and they would go with it in different directions, whereas 10 different TE DOMs would look at the same fact and their thinking you wouldn't stray too far from the fact. And the SE DOMs would maybe look at it and go, wow, well, it is what it is. What can you do? And so that's one of the reasons why in Kersey that the nature of the
almost made it through, man. Almost.
I won't say anymore. But is that a good enough answer, Fate, or would you like a little bit more? But actually, that's for me. So, what about you, BT? When it said that this gather new facts thing, because that's what I was wondering for. It's like, what kind of facts to what end?
So
and the thing is, when you say TE gathers facts or data, I mean, you're getting back into human needs.
Yeah.
If you're looking at this from an OP perspective, because gathering is the
right.
gathering would correspond to FE and NE, and TE is more like going to be tribe focused. Yeah, they might gather facts or data, but they want something that's going to work for people.
And it's also just an
So they might gather
versus
facts or data to make something that will work.
So in objective personality, the observer functions are focused on information and the decider functions are focused on people. So TE is a people function. It's about the people and like ideas from people.
Right.
And SE is about information. It's not a people function. So that I think is one of the core differences there.
Yeah, so TE will use facts and SE will gather the facts. It'll play with the facts. It'll manipulate the facts.
You see, this is why I would like to see a whole type profile of an SE, of the two SE DOMs in O, because then I could see what are they using the facts for? What is their motivation for the facts?
So you need the 4 SE DOMs as well because of the masculine and feminine SE. And
well, yeah, I would like to see what the purpose is for it, because the way I see it play out in reality, and yes, is that we see SE DOMs as tactical, as gathering information that's relevant to the task at hand, so they can apply it. I mean, you interviewed Damon Gray, didn't you?
Yeah. And in OP, he's TENE. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the image he puts across. But well, in Kersian socionics, he's SE DOM. But anyway, we'll have to find somebody else to think of. You interviewed Jeff. Right. Did you? I think you interviewed Jeff. Would you think
I did
Jeff
interview Jeff. Yeah. Jeff does seem like an SE DOM. Yeah.
Right. Sure. So I can talk about Jeff now because I've known him since 2013. So he's about gathering things which are relevant, but he also has lots of these nerdy interests. Yep. But his kind of facts are related to like old TV shows like Doctor Who or Homicide.
With an SE DOM, you can talk about something really random and distant and far away, and he'll just be like, "Oh, that was this happened there." This like they'll know something about everything, little details about everything, sort of thing.
Yeah,
masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think he's masculine SE?
Oh, Jeff is very feminine with his functions. He's very much, and that's why he doesn't.
But in OP, everybody has 2 masculine functions and 2 feminine functions. Everybody.
Yeah. I think he's
now. Some people might appear more feminine because maybe their savior functions or feminine, or what they're extroverting out to the world is feminine. But
okay, I'll tell you something about Jeff's character, and then you can try and work it out in terms of functions. So he watches a lot of soaps, and he cries a lot watching television.
That's feminine FI.
Yeah.
That just sounds like
feminine feeling.
Feminine feeling.
Yeah, feminine feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
And 7 wing 6 in Enneagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very feely person, very emo, Jeff.
Yeah.
He once said, I'm not interested in psychology. I'm interested in people.
How's his memory?
Oh, Jeff would say that, and Jeff talks about this from Dario Nardi, that he was saying that for short-term memory, artisans have the best memory for short-term information. SJs have the best memory for long-term information. And NJs are the ones that are most convinced that they were right, but they're wrong.
But how is his memory?
Mitch, I'm sorry, man.
Sorry, Gina.
I'm just wrong.
No, so the question is his memory more conceptual or is his memory more factual?
For Jeff.
Yeah, because you know him better.
Factual.
So then it sounds like he's got a masculine SE then, just from what
masculine.
You said. I don't know. It's anecdotal, but
yeah.
Yeah, and
what about?
Was that Laura?
So will he argue with you about details?
Yes.
Yeah.
He frequently when I overgeneralize, and he keeps me grounded.
And then he'll have a problem knowing where he's going with things. He'll be too accountable to the moment, and he's older now, so he's probably better with his NI. But like,
Jeff's favorite place is to live in the moment.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And his actually his favorite thing would be able to improvise continually on the moment, on stage, with people giving him their full attention and appreciation. That would be heaven for Jeff.
Right.
So
And that's actually an example
is he seeking a lot of tribe validation then? I mean,
that's the thing. But that's an example though of creative extroverted feeling.
Yeah.
In ESFP. They love the attention. And they want the love from people.
So as an SF and you're the NT, there would be a big contrast there. He'd be more focused on like the physical world and how the values are in the physical world, and you'd be more focused on the abstract.
Yeah, I mean, we have difference, but you see, the thing is with the way I interact with Jeff, different approaches, but we're interested in similar things. We're both 7 6,
but interested in different things for different reasons.
Yeah, but we have an interest. Say, we have the same interest in Doctor Who and in typology.
Right.
It was
you like Doctor Who for one reason, and he'll like Doctor Who for a different reason.
Yeah, but a lot of times we like the same episodes. We both dislike the new stuff a lot. We like the proper 20th century Doctor Who. What was I going to get to about? Oh yeah, another thing with Jeff is we're both creative subtype, so there's going to be a similarity there. Mitchell, could you talk about that? About what the creative subtype is like, say, of ESFP? Because when I read it, it sounded a lot like Jeff when I read it.
Right here from Victor's.
Yeah, Victor. Yeah, Victor's.
All right. Here it is. Okay, so this is the politician mercurial.
Yeah.
Prototypes are the event planner and the comedy artist. This subtype is distinguished by uninhibited and demonstrative behavior. Amongst company, his wit becomes apparent. He prefers democratic humor without sarcasm or mean and inappropriate jokes. He's good at conducting toasts and amusing guests during feasts. He enjoys telling anecdotes and jokes that please everyone. As he is sociable, knows how to secure valuable contacts, although he lacks the time to consistently support them. He prefers to negotiate depending on the situation and on mutually beneficial terms. He confidently finds applications for other skills and abilities and waits for others' reactions and evaluations. He praises his intelligence, insights, and other advantages or abilities alongside his pragmatic motivation, which stimulate him in pursuing his host of activities. I mean, I can go on, but do you want me to read like the whole description? Or is
yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay. He loves freedom and cannot tolerate being regulated with precise instructions detailing when, how, and what he can and can't do. He resists any restrictions placed on him, often in a manner that is harsh and rude. At the same time, he is capable of neutralizing a serious looming conflict by changing the subject or refuting the offensive words by turning them into a joke. SCE rarely pays attention to general laws and independent tendencies, often based on the fact that all actions are subject to his subjective desires and gains. Complex logical explanations do not suit him. He sticks to simple diagrams and explanations. He prefers compromise and arrangements instead of harsh confrontation. He looks for the right way to approach a person. He can be emotional and impetuous, boldly expressing his feelings and concerns. He is able to proffer compliments. His behavior is unpredictable due to sudden changes in his goals and desires. His mood affects those around him. If it is good, he can affect everyone with his optimism, and if bad, spoil the fun. At times, he can be excessively dramatic. He is sensitive to criticism and becomes nervous when attention is drawn to his mistakes. He is offended when people do not take his advice on remedial provisions. He may even protest. However, over time, he begins to listen to legitimate concerns and changes his stance. He respects smart people when they warn him about a hasty decision in advance, cautioning about potential adverse effects. As practical psychologist, this subtype is also good at reading people's intentions by focusing on their appearance, facial expressions, and gestures. He can cleverly make advertisements, persuading people to make particular choices. He stimulates, encourages, and persuades others. He revolves among his friends and relatives and has the necessity to be social However, in his narrow circle of people, he often criticizes rather than gives praise, although he does so gently in a half-joking manner. As he is inclined to start a lot of things at once and never manages to finish everything due to a lack of time, loss of interest, or falling into a bad mood, he has a poorly developed sense of proportion, often wanting to do more than is objectively possible. He performs well in advertising fields, intuitively understanding what is interesting and how to hype something up to make it seem better than it is. Focusing on minor things, he may miss what is most important and necessary. Routine and monotony tire him quickly, therefore he is inclined to relax and seek new interests. Characteristic curiosity leads him to new information and even self-improvement. Switching between various activities and people is vital to him.
That's a profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that you've experienced, Jeff? Do you think that fits, Jeff?
A little bit. There was actually just a class on a FISE where they had 2 FISEs where, like, when they're on stage and when they're performing, they're trying to amuse themselves. They're not really, they don't really care if they're amusing other people. They're just having fun themselves. And because they're having so much fun, it draws people in and it makes everyone have fun.
Yeah, there is a bit of that. There is a bit of that with Jeff. And I've heard Jeff say that for an ISFP performer, they focus on one person in the audience and play to them.
There you go.
The ESFP is to everybody.
Inside jokes and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the YouTube video that you're talking about?
I don't remember who it was. It was two guys, one interviewer and one other guy. They had the same exact type.
Yeah,
Well,
video on YouTube.
Mitch,
It was really funny. Yeah.
Mitchell, could you read out creative ESE and let's see how Julia relates to it?
I'll find the name.
So we've digressed now, folks, but this is good stuff.
Sure.
So this is coming from Victor's, because Julia, because you've got that ESFJ jumper with the extra NE, and this profile has a bit of extra NE.
So this is the
Peter Holmes.
Pleaser.
So wait, Julia, I thought they typed you as FESI, or do you agree more with the jumper?
No. I initially, the very beginning, thought that I was a jumper, FENE.
Colbert.
But now I think I'm FESI, but my NE is double activated and also masculine.
Oh, okay.
Last. So
Right.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I use it a lot, but
that makes sense.
SI is the savior.
Right, so this will be very interesting to see how you relate. So maybe Mitchell, you could do it one paragraph at a time. So it's like read one paragraph, get Julia's thoughts, then move on to the next one.
Okay, so this is the creative subtype of enthusiast. Is the pleaser, prototype, admirer of talent. This is the most charming representative of this type. She easily makes acquaintances. She is an effective receptionist when accommodating guests, as well as organizing cultural gatherings. Very quick on her feet. She doesn't like remaining in one place for prolonged periods. She tends to travel, learning about the lifestyles of others around the world. She always has something to talk about. Tourism activities, facilitating guests, working in or owning salons or boutiques, conducting concerts and celebrations. These are the best applications for her abilities. She respects experience and knowledge, although she won't delve into this deeply. She is interested first and foremost in people themselves, their character and feelings.
So there's some of those things that I identify with, some of those that I don't identify with. I wish I had it in front of me because now I don't even remember what they were.
To answer your early question, it was Peter Holmes and Stephen Colbert, that class.
Oh, okay. Peter Holmes and Stephen Colbert. Yeah, that was a good class.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Okay, yeah, going back to this, there's some things that I identify with, some things I don't. Like making acquaintances easily, yes, that's true. There's something about organizing cultural gatherings. I don't do that and I don't have any interest in that, so no to that. And then travels often, doesn't like to stay in one place for very long. Yes, I absolutely do that. I get bored of one place. And then I think it says something about like, what was it? Like the best applications for someone is like,
the best application of their abilities were tourism activities, facilitating guests, working in or owning salons or boutiques, conducting concerts and celebrations.
Salons and boutiques.
No, yeah, salons, not my thing. Like celebrations.
It's such a stereotype.
The point of celebrating.
Yeah, but
so
if you go on to the next one, the next paragraph, Mitchell, let's see if we get.
She is quite inconsistent, impulsive, and poorly calculates. Her time, a lot of effort is spent on minor things. As a result of that, she never seems to find the appropriate time to schedule things. She's ashamed of her lateness and disorganization, tries to discipline herself. She willingly volunteers, accepting new positions and organizing them, but never really thinking about the consequences. It's kind of a harsh paragraph.
Yeah. I don't think he liked ESFPs much.
This is
ESFPs.
ESFJ, yeah.
Yeah.
He does those in Duel.
responsible person.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at keeping track of my time. Reasonably good. I don't know what to say about that one.
Yeah, you might not be a creative subtype.
Yeah.
Sometimes she is overly trusting or careless, fully anticipating the future prospects of a proposed deal. As a result, she can make reckless decisions which are later regretted. A session individual.
So maybe it's easier to go kind of because once you get to the end of the paragraph, I forget what you said at the first bit. But like being overly trusting of people, things like that, I think that is something that I actually do, and that I think is the FE, trusting the group rather than myself. So that I would say yes to.
Okay. When such an individual frequently makes mistakes, she becomes suspicious, although she does not show this to others. She's quite jealous in personal relationships and won't rest until her suspicions are dispelled.
I'm the least jealous person in the world now.
She poorly handles dull routines and may daydream or think about pleasant memories from the past to escape. She never refuses to test herself in something new. She doesn't enjoy wasting time and is always trying to fill her day with interesting experiences, visits to the theater, cinema, exhibitions, parks, friends, etc.
So you cut out on a few of those things.
Oh, she doesn't enjoy wasting time
I didn't catch
and
it.
is always trying to fill her day with interesting experiences, visits to the theater, cinema.
Now everyone's cutting.
I think it's you, Julia, that's cutting a bit.
Yeah, I think it is. I think my
Yeah.
internet is cutting it out, so
Just
I'm
a
not
little
catching
bit.
what you're.
All right. She doesn't enjoy wasting time and is always trying to fill her day with interesting experiences, visits theater, cinema, friends, etc.
I mean, I don't really identify with either. Like, yes and no, depends on the day. I don't know.
Some of that anyone could identify with.
Yeah.
She describes.
Might be
Now
interesting.
it's Mitch that's cutting out.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, I see you all in real time. What are you saying, Ben?
do I sound okay? Should I log back in again, or
No, you're good, man.
all right?
Yeah.
It might be interesting. If you got to the end, harmonizing might be possible for Julia because she types as Enneagram 9.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm identifying with some of this and not other. Like it's kind of half and half, and then some of it is.
Yeah,
just
it might not be a fit.
depends on the day, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, sometimes correlating these systems is not necessarily the easiest.
Yeah.
It can be different things that, like the one person's typing you with, and then doesn't necessarily match with how they see those same things.
Yeah.
So do you want to look at harmonizing or move on to something else?
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to hear the reaction. As long as there's
Do we want to stay with Kiersey, or do we want to get back to discussing objective personality? Do we have other questions to cover?
Yeah.
that's sort of okay. I've been indulged enough. Yes.
And I have to go in about 20 minutes because I gotta go to work. So
any
Wrap things up in not too long.
I have a question, Ben. Do you feel like you and Laura and Julia all are from Alpha Quadra? Like, do you feel like you guys are all communicating the same sort of language? And that, like, I'm kind of weird and alien that you have to translate stuff for?
No, I don't get that. I don't get beta quadra values from you because I think you're. But again, there's cultural things. Like you said, you're from Canada, and the manners thing, Canada nice, and things like that. The cultural overlay, but I don't get.
I guess Mitch would be the opposite quadra from the three of you.
Yeah, but you see, he's harmonizing though, so it takes off the edge off the interaction style.
Okay.
and like
Of it.
and like for me, like in OP, I'm in like one quadra, and then like in socionics, I'd be considered a different quadra, and
That's true.
and that's where it
Yeah,
gets
you're-
more confusing is when your
you're Delta
type
and OP.
isn't 100% correlating in both systems. And I mean, I know, like, when I compiled this document, I mean, Ben, I don't want to pick on you, but you had all this TI stuff, and I kind of got overwhelmed by your TI because I think I felt like I was approaching it more from TE.
Oh,
I mean, maybe
I
in
think-
an OP sense. So,
how can I put this? So unpretty here. Are you the person that told me about Vanderhoop? Because she has different names on. I think this might be the right. Yeah, I think this might be. Anyway.
I tried to look into the quadrants a little bit in OP at one point.
Yes, that would be interesting because there's a certain person that believes that OP should not be allowed to have quadras.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
that was on the
Yeah.
Damon Gray's channel.
Yeah. It was. I was having an argument with him on Facebook, and then he went off and vented about it on his channel.
yeah.
Actually,
I mean, why did they say that though? I mean, why shouldn't they have quadras? I mean,
No, it's
because
not,
I know Dave and Shannon, they don't use the term quadras, but they do talk about how people, like, with their opposite functions, it's kind of like a different language.
Yeah.
And they'll kind of joke sometimes, like, they're kind of weird. I mean, like,
seems like they're
because Dave and
describing-
Shannon have
Yeah, like
Have the,
like
the NISD,
like surfer.
FI, and TE functions. So people that are like alpha quadra, they're kind of not speaking their language. You know, they have talked about that without using the actual term quadra.
I just posted in private chat.
what I can do
Laura, I
is-
have to say, there's no talking over you. It's like Steven.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's great. I wish I was more like that.
Yeah, it's very accommodating. So I was just gonna actually, because you know when we were talking about Jeff, what I did is I sent him a message saying, "Hey, we were talking about you," and then I removed the thing, and then I can send it again, and then he can join, and I can say, "No, we were talking about you," but then we were talking about this thing. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying now. So, Laura, you got these extra little questions, I think, from the community about OP.
Let's see. We did. Let's see. Santa's first question. I felt like we kind of started on that one. Then we kind of digressed into other things.
Question one.
Well, yeah, we kind of did, because self versus tribe, and then we did talk about like function activation and stuff. I think we kind of did that one. She had something like feminine TE appearing like Effie.
Mhm.
I don't think we did that one.
Yeah, let's do that then.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've also like experienced that when I'm typing people, the feminine TE, I've typed them as Effie.
Yeah. Because feminine T is accommodating.
Yeah. They're so nicey, just like the Effies. At least the feminine Effies.
Yeah.
It's kind of more on the standpoint of reasons rather than values. Like okay, I can kind of see your reason for this, sure, and then here's somebody else's reason. Oh yeah, I can see the reason for that, and I think that's what I do because I have feminine TE.
Yeah, I do that too.
Right.
And their FI might also be stronger than someone with feminine FI because masculine functions are usually stronger, so it might kind of bleed through more. So you might hear a little bit more feeling talk from someone who's feminine TE versus someone who's masculine TE.
The other thing I've noticed, FE users aren't really responsible for the logic and for figuring things out. And so they also go and ping off the tribe for the logic a little bit, where they're not figuring it out with the tribe, but they're getting the tribe's opinions on things.
Yeah, like do it for me
Yeah.
because I do it myself kind of thing.
Or give me,
Like
what do you
outsourcing.
think about this? Outsourcing the thinking, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And
But
then
the
at the end,
the
And-
TEs will also do that too. Like, what do you
Right,
think
exactly,
About, what do you
yeah.
think about this?
Exactly.
They're
Oh, yeah.
they're interacting with the other people on the reasons. Whereas someone with Effie,
And I think TE is more responsible to figure it out, though. They want to figure it out. They want to understand.
We'll figure it out with the tribe, and then the TI is trying.
Yeah,
the
without-
inferior TI is trying to get people to help their TI get to the answer. Yeah.
I think another thing about like masculine, feminine is I've also heard David Shannon say that the feminine FI will sometimes look like FE.
oh
Because
yeah,
there are kind of flowy and expressive, more flowy and more expressive with emotions, and some
Right.
people might kind of mistake that as FE because some of these MBTI websites
it's
they
a
kind
savior,
of see
yeah.
FE as being emotionally expressive. If you're emotionally expressive, you're FE.
Yeah, I think actually you could feminine feeling is considered FE, and then masculine thinking is considered, or masculine feeling is considered FI in general. Yeah, feminine feeling FE and masculine feeling FI.
So so if somebody had masculine FE, do you think that they could look FI to people?
I think it also sometimes depends on the person. Like I know someone in real life who's masculine FE, and like there is no way that you could ever mistake this person for FI because they are just like constantly giving to the tribe. Whereas there are some people where
TE does the same thing.
Yeah, TE does the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's just this person I'm fairly sure has FE, but you could never mistake this person for being self above tribe just because they're so like tribe focused. But other people who have FE even at the top, sometimes it's not as obvious. So it kind of just seems like it depends on the person and what functions are the most obvious with that person.
I've seen, like, I have a good example. So like if you see someone's moving their furniture into their apartment, so a TE user would be like, hey, let me help you move the furniture in. And an FE user would be like, hey, do you guys want some water? You want a sandwich?
Yeah. I made brownies. You want some?
Yeah. I'm not going to help you lift, but I want you guys to be happy while you're lifting.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben, you're not working again, buddy.
You've cut out again.
What is with it?
Yeah, I
Is
don't
it like
know.
something with StreamYard?
He knows what
No
to
idea.
do.
Or maybe his mic is cutting out. It's getting disconnected.
It might just be the application because I know I've had a lot of audio issues with this application as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say that I think an FE user can do that TE stuff, take a TE action, but for FE reasons. Right. I remember there was a scene.
Oh, can you guys hear Ben? I can't hear Ben anymore.
I can hear him now, yeah.
Oh, I can't. Can you guys hear me? Well,
yes, I can hear you.
Me, so.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I'll log out again and come back just for Julia. Now can I be heard?
Yeah,
now
I can hear you.
Yeah. So there was a scene in Babylon 5 where there was a pastor who was talking about, and this is about F, and he was talking about when he was cleaning the floor for his friend, and he very much enjoyed that more than when he was cleaning his own floor because he was doing it for somebody else. And so there you can say he was taking an action for FE reasons, and also a little bit Enneagram too.
Sound like it could be TE as well.
Yeah, but like I said, someone can take a TE action for FE reasons too. So
in OP, they define TE as also doing things for others, but like in a practical way, less for an emotional reason, less for a value reason.
Right. I mean, like, like buying groceries for
Everyone
somebody.
can do
I
everything.
mean, that could be TE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Or
comes down
cleaning the house. I mean,
Yeah, because
so yeah, TEs can be
everyone
caregivers.
has all of the
And David
things.
Shannon do emphasize too that everybody does everything. So, but one thing that I wish that they would flesh out more is these so-called shadow functions because David Shannon kind of say, well, it's kind of like you only really have 4 functions and your other 4 functions are kind of simulated. It's kind of like having a blue crayon and a yellow crayon to make green. So if you have SI and NE, you could use them together to simulate NI, but you don't really have the NI function. And I don't think I really quite agree with that. I do think that we have all 8 of them, and
So I did a
they are
personal
kind
call
of
with
more of
Dave
a
a couple
shadow
of times.
function.
Yeah, I did a personal call with Dave a
What?
couple of times, and he explained to me how certain function manifests, and it's exactly like that. It's that you have a job to do that it's made for an SI person. Okay, let's say you've got to
Oh.
organize all of this data. Okay, and you don't have SI in your stack, so you're going to use your functions in combination. So like an SE user would look at the data in the moment and make a change, and then go back to the moment and see how it looks in front of them, and then make another change, and then make another. Like he would iterate changes, and he would sort of do the SI, whereas it's not a natural thing for them. Like they're using the SE to do SI. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you think they're not really using SI? Is that
They're
kind of
not really using SI, but they're simulating it by doing step by step, looking at what's in front of them, and then organizing it in a different way to see if it's better. Yeah.
So do you personally agree with that view, or do you think like we kind of use all 8 functions, but some are more or less conscious than other functions?
I don't actually think functions are like an actual thing. It's just a way to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just an orientation of where things are. You think, not to use the word should again, but sensory should be extroverted. That's how I feel. And when I use it introvertedly, like subjectively, then it feels like I'm doing something that shouldn't be done, but I can still do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Dario Nardi's book 8 Keys to Self-Leadership, and he puts a lot of tasks there that are associated with the functions, those actual tasks and abilities do exist. So the things that they say, so for instance, if it says any is good at this, or these functions are good at these things, those things that they are associated with definitely do exist. And the neuroscience is loose. There is a loose, it's almost like there's a statistical relationship between the idea of the function and the cognitive process and the behavior, and that there are patterns there. But Dario has to run his data through a lot of statistical analysis, and that's almost like the secret sauce of what he does. And he notices a lot of difference in the wiring in the brain just from experience. And there's a wonderful video out there that I try to get people to watch called The Brain at Midlife.
Yep.
Did you watch it all?
No, not yet. But one of the things I know Dario does is he's looking at like really what people can do and how good they are at it and what they started and where they ended up. But he's not really focusing on what people feel responsible to do, which is something that so everyone can do the SE. The question is, are you responsible to it?
It sort of seems like he's looking at, he's gathering the sensory data about people's traits, and he's trying to actually use statistics to say these traits are associated with these types based on neural imaging. So that's kind of what it seems like to me. Like he's gathering, information about what traits are associated with each type.
And it's also all assuming that he's typing people correctly.
Exactly.
Well, this is one of the points of difference between us. Is Dario, like me, is looking at like Linda Behrens calls them essential motivator patterns, and he even did a hangout where he talked about the essential motivators of extroverted sensation types of SPs. And so it's just that you're looking at the human needs thing, and me and Jeff and Dario and Linda are looking at things through the lens of the needs associated with the temperaments, with the Kersey temperaments. So when it comes to motivation, we're sort of talking past each other. And so that's probably why you think that, hey, Ben, you're just talking about traits. But I am about the motivations of the types, because I realize that functions can develop. And so
maybe have a discussion about what motivation is, like what you mean when you say motivation versus what I mean when I say human needs. Because I was thinking those were the same thing, but now I think, I don't know exactly what you mean by motivation. And I know Laura has to leave soon, so we have to wrap up soon, but maybe we can talk about that sometime.
Another thing that was sort of brought up in OP, and it's more something that I've been diving in on the side, is basically front end and back end and pleasure and pain. And what I keep coming back to is all of the functions develop. There has to be a reason why you use the functions, and it has to do with pleasure and pain. And so if you get momentary pleasure from something, then you're going to be addicted to it. So if I get pleasure from TIing all day, like momentary pleasure, and that's why I'm responsible to TI, because I'm always doing that TI because I'm getting this momentary pleasure, to the fact that part where I'm completely desensitized to it because I'm just constantly feeding my dopamine with this TI-ness. And then what's happening with the FE is that I'm going to get lots of momentary pain from using the FE. It's going to hurt in the moment. So it's going to force me even deeper into my TI. But like, this is all front end stuff. And in the back end, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to get this long-term pain from my TI and ignoring my FE. And it's going to be something I'm going to feel unfulfilled, for example. Whereas if I was using my FE, I'm going to get this long-term pleasure, even though it hurts in the moment. If I can overcome that pain, on the back end, I'll get this long-term pleasure, like this fulfillment from using that FE. So that's something as well that I've been investigating, and OP has also been saying. Yeah.
Right then.
Okay.
And Ben
I just want to thank you all for having me on this chat. I do have to get going to work. You can feel free to continue on if you want.
Yeah, we'll continue on just by talking about ideas for the next video, and maybe actually doing that thing that Julia suggested, is looking at motivational differences.
I think I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go at the same time as Laura. So for me, there'll need to be a
sure.
Next time.
Let's break it up.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, 6 viewers and future viewers.
Right,
thanks a lot,
then.
Ben. Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Well,
thank you.
We got through it. It became a little bit of all over the place, and because of different frames of reference and
Any
channel expecting that, man. It's like.
But I think it would be interesting, because I'd love to do that, Julia, where we do talk about motivation, because like where we're coming from in terms of the human needs, maybe. So do you want me to end the broadcast before you actually leave?
That would be nice, yeah.
Okay.